Very beautiful question, very beautiful answer. Oh, Don Cheadle. Don Cheadle.
Hi, Mark Hughes with Forbes, and I'm wondering on, in terms of each character's arc being served in Infinity War, your character obviously had somewhat of a tragic arc the last time we saw in Civil War. Can you talk about...
Thanks, Vision.
Can you talk about a little bit about preparing for Infinity War and carrying over that? It's something that, you know, all the characters have tragedies and things in their life, but your character's dealing with something very immediate to have to overcome on top of everything else that's being faced here.
Well, what I think is really great about the having something like this in a way to anchor a lot of the other things that are happening in the story and getting to continue it forward through both of the films is that, you know, we always get to have these sort of down notes in a good way. I think there's always a lot of eye candy and very dramatic things happening and big spectacular fights and really amazing things that we see on screen. And then it comes down to these characters in their interpersonal situations with one another and their personal journeys that they have. And where it comes to Rhodey, I'm glad that this is something that's carried through and that is, you know, wasn't just dropped. It's a line that is actually goes through both of the films and comes into play in a very important way. I won't give it away, but it's something that factors in all the way through. So it's nice to have something that's cohesive and continues and keeps me grounded and keeps the character grounded.
Totally blind, totally blind. Hey, so you can ask a question. If you have a question for somebody who wears a cape.
I have a question for Chris Hemsworth, because I'm a big Thor fan. What scene did you find most challenging to film for this movie, and why? Was it because of the people in it? Was it because of the director? Or was it, you know, just anything like that?
It's all very difficult because of the directors and the people in it, this whole film. It's an awful experience. So myself, Jeff, and Tom are going back to our own movies from now on. The most difficult... the first day was what you've seen on the trailers. It was Thor meeting the Guardians, and it felt like kind of first day at school for me, you know, because they all knew each other, and I didn't, so I was a new kid. And they'd all been shooting, and I hadn't. And I had some weird sort of nervous butterflies floating around my body. And but it was... but I squeezed them out of me, you know. Chris Pratt gave me a big hug, and all the butterflies flew to my ears. And... we had this whole film for me was I felt like a fan and meeting a lot of these people and the characters that I'd watched on screen and admired, and so to be on screen with them as Thor but as Chris also was pretty damn exciting.
Okay. Kevin Feige.
If there's anything you use to sort of ground these movies in their origins beyond just the characters and the stories, anything visually, anything thematically that you've used to sort of pull all this together?
Well, you will not be surprised to hear it's the comics. It's the comics that we look at usually when there is just the notion of let's do an Iron Man movie or let's have the audacity to try to do a version of the Infinity Gauntlet. It starts with those comics and us beginning to rip pages out or rip copies of pages out, put them on the walls and start to be inspired. And in every single movie we've made, up to and especially Infinity War, there are direct images, storylines, rarely but sometimes actual lines of dialogue that come from those pages that we've put up around our development room for inspiration. And with Infinity War in particular, when there were so many characters and so many threads of storylines from so many movies that we could have pulled from or could have used as inspiration, and we did. We kept going back to, and I think we've released some behind-the-scene videos and things, and you can see the giant omnibus of the Infinity Gauntlet there with all sorts of dog-eared pages and Post-its in there from moments. And after everybody sees the movie, we can talk more specifically about what those moments were. Most of them were surrounding Mr. Brolin's Thanos portrayal that came directly from Jim Starlin's work there. So it is always a guide point. It's a North Star for us as we lead these giant productions into reality, right from those books and where it all started.